starting with Tim, just briefly, if each of you could give us just 2 minutes on what you look for in this challenge. Give us a sense of your perspective.
Okay, well, I think I'm looking for something very disruptive, and the way I decide what's disruptive is the world is changing very, very fast. Moore's law says that $1,000 worth of compute power doubles every 18 months, and now it's doubling every 12 months. And it's accelerating, so our rate of innovation is accelerating. So we, as a population, have to change. We have to adapt to all these new technologies that are coming all the time, and they keep moving and changing. And so I'm looking for things that are kind of way out there. The incremental business plan doesn't quite cut it for me, because if you're just making an incremental step, there's no way as a little entrepreneur you're going to be able to compete against some company that's got 20,000 employees. But as a little entrepreneur, you can if you're going after something that's way out there, where the odds are, you're taking long odds at an extraordinary outcome. So I think that's first. There's significant change going on in the world. Think of all the inventions that have happened in the last 150 years and how they've changed our lives. That amount of change is going to happen in the next 15 years, and maybe the next 2 years after that. So we're going to see extraordinary things, and so I'm looking for that great entrepreneur who is going after something that none of us has ever imagined, and it's just a little bit beyond what we would consider sanity.
Okay. Exciting stuff. Z, how do you look at it?
I guess when I ask people how they would define innovation or what's their favorite innovation, they usually think about some sort of technological gadget or a product. And I think we've been trained to think of innovation as product. And really, I think that the next generation of innovation, the really most disruptive innovations, are going to be organizational innovations, institutional innovations, the way we get food and energy and education. And so I'm really interested in that type of innovation. And I think people also often think innovation is about a new idea. And I would say there's two pieces of innovation. One is it's a process of transforming a new idea into a tangible impact. And so I will be looking for something that's really novel, something that's a real game changer. But the other thing is, it's not just a matter of having this crazy idea. If it's so crazy, but you're not able to have other people accept your idea, it's about adoption, it's about scale. And getting people to want that change in some way or another, it's those two pieces that I'll be looking for.
Okay. Chinedu?
Well, I think to answer the question, I think I just need to give you some sort of background. So I work for a private equity firm focused on Africa. We invest primarily in the food value chain, businesses from production of food to the processing of food, distribution, et cetera. So, and I used to live in the United States. So I come to investing in Africa. That's my outlook in investing, is that of like, how do we take concepts or business models that work well in the US and in sort of developed countries and apply it, and not just wholesale, but adapt it to the particular issues in deploying business or deploying capital in Africa. So I'm looking for kind of disruptive, and not only products, but the actual business model as we've discussed so far. Okay.
Well, I don't envy your task, but I suppose it's better to have money and be giving it out than to be on the receiving end of that stick. So I'm not too upset about your position. Let me explain the format in which this will now proceed. We've got 4 finalists. They'll come up in turn, and they will make 3-minute pitches to you in real time. None of these judges have seen these pitches before, and you're going to have 5 minutes to confer, discuss, and debate, grill the contestant, as it were. And we'll take them off stage. I'm going to be very tough on time here. We're going to bring out the next contestant. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So. And after that, you'll confer in private and come up with your single winner, please. As we all beg you. Nobody wants me to pick the winner. All right. So without further ado, let me welcome our first contestant. And apologies, some of these contestants' names are even more unpronounceable than mine, so I apologize in advance. Alan Klanach of AS2Com. Welcome. Give him a round of applause.
So, my name is Alan Klanach. I come from Croatia. I run an R&D company there called AS2Com. I have a doctorate degree from Aalto University from Finland. And with my team, we have come up to a new business model for shipyards. It's a classic industry, something that has not been business-wise innovative on a large scale. It has been very innovative on a technological scale, but there is a discrepancy. And that's why this model, we believe, has a chance to be implemented into real world. So the model talks about a true service yard, a shipyard that offers their product, because shipyards build ships, not for sale, but for rent. And you'll probably know that there are other industries in the world that operate kind of similar models. Here we are talking about shipyards which are worth maybe 20% of their annual sales, and they have a very long history. The problem is that they don't have a backup, basically, for this sales, for the risk that someone is basically ordering ships from them, and they have to make it up with bank loans, with guarantees, and this is costing them a lot of money. On the other hand, shipbuilding for the last 20 years has not been very profitable. So we have a more or less an unsustainable system. And this is valid for almost all the shipbuilding countries in the world, except the Far East, where the different model is basically implemented, and that is that there are large corporations standing behind these yards. So a true service yard is a yard that builds a fleet of ships through a period of years, maybe 3 to 5 years, has a fleet which puts on a market. Ships are, in a way, a commodity. They can be traded in. They can be co-invested with, for instance, equipment suppliers to minimize the risk. The whole ball game is about risk, about financial risk. It's about managing the cash flow in a better way. You have a continuous income in comparison to a periodic income, which is very large, but it's also very risky. You can be left out with a ship on a dry dock and have a problem with that. The second thing, which is very important, and that is that it can help the technological side of the shipyard. They can plan their production better. They can optimize their ships for themselves, which is not the way, and they don't have a chance to do that right now. So once again, it's a true service yard, renting ships, a win-win-win strategy, basically, for the owners, for the shipyards, and effectively for the financiers as well. Thank you.
Let's turn to our tigers.
So why do you care?
I run a company which works with shipyards. I see this as a great opportunity for consulting services to them. I see this as an opportunity for new shipyards being built, for instance, in Africa, where you don't have on the western coast very many shipyards, almost none. Having sustainable shipyards in the other parts of the world, not only the Far East, brings diversity, brings, for the whole world, less risk, because you never know what might happen.
Do you have any market sizing that you've done on the company?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about a market which is in total $150 billion a year, or euros a year.
In B?
B, yes. B, yes. So about 60% of this market, 70% of this market is outside Far East. So that's a market potential, annual market potential to be worked on. And this is disruptive in that way that changes standard policy. And on the other hand, it does not affect the organizational level, it does not affect the customers, actually it helps the customers, because the customers, which are the ship owners or the ship operators of the future, don't have to have a large capital investment. Of course, it's not a magical model. We need to have someone in a transitional period backing up this. So we need investors, and we need large investors. It could be banks, it could be someone who is willing to put up, or at least put on the side, a few $100 million. Of course, to implement this model, you need much, much less. That's the fact.
Would you be the CEO, or how are you planning on implementing this?
Well, there are two ways. One is as a consulting service through my company. The other option is to enter a yard through a management in collaboration with experienced managers who know how to run yards.
Are you familiar with a company called Global Ship Lease? And would you be a competitor, or how are you different? How would this be different?
Can you mention their name again?
Global Ship Lease. It's a company that I understand does some leasing. And how about the companies that are in the aircraft leasing business? Have you looked into that industry, and what have you learned from that?
You could, yeah. I mean, we looked at, basically, we heard today quite much about services, about turning your products into services. This model is based on those facts. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm not aware of the company that you mentioned, but being a competitor there or not, it's actually much more about knowing your mathematics and your finances very clearly for a particular yard. That's 80% of the game. 20% of the game is optimizing their production, at least in the beginning. It might be 50% of the game in 5 to 10 years, because they're going to have a continuous production, well planned for their capacity. You have to always know that shipyards, most of them were built at least maybe on average 30 years ago, or maybe 100 years ago. So there's a limited space. They're always kind of operating. It's more as a manufacturing type of thing than industrial type of thing. So this could turn things around with the same capacity, basically.
Have you tried to sell any of these guys? I get the feeling that people who run shipyards are not really anxious to change anything very quickly.
Well, basically, yeah, we did. We talked with the people about this, and we talked with the experienced people. And the response back is that you have to have the right balance. So it's not about kind of a foolproof idea that you simply implement it and that's it. It's about well balancing. Maybe you do it partially in the beginning, so you don't go into details. You don't go full implementation. You do part of the ships you sell, part of the ships you put for rent, but then eventually you build up this model. Because the belief is that you need to have a sustainable, you need to have high assets, you need to have large assets to be able to be a market player. Otherwise, the market eats you up. Even though you're handling on per year $500 million or $1 billion, but the market eats you up because you don't have the assets.
Quick question. So what's the order of patterns of the customers? Do they say, I want to build these kinds of ships, or do they just say, just deliver ships that fit into certain criteria?
You should look at the market. You should look at your capacity. Market will tell you what.
I'm saying, do the customers ask the shipbuilders to build a certain spec?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, then how do you expect to commoditize something that's a customer?
Well, basically, 60 or 65% of the world's fleet is tankers and bulkers. So, and these ships are standardized in 4 or 5 different groups. So 4 different sizes. So basically, you have limitless number of options, which is good. So you don't have infinite number of options. So basically, what you do with them is that, okay, they are ordering 10 ships and buying them for you. Now you're going to tell them, okay, rent them from me for 10-year period. And that's what they do, actually. That's what they do with their customers. And these customers are oil majors, for example. So, yeah.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give him a round of applause. Wish him luck. Okay. Our next contestant, Anjay Lal from Agro Engine. Please welcome him to the stage.
I'm one of the MBA folks that Vijay mentioned some time ago. So our idea is essentially focused on the agricultural value chain and would be applicable to developing markets such as India, Africa. And the Agro Engine is essentially a sophisticated analytics engine which will identify trends and deliver key insights by collecting the data from various elements of the agricultural value chain. So, for example, a typical agricultural value chain starts from an individual farmer and goes all the way till retail. But as a farmer, let's say I'm a farmer, I really base my decisions on legacy, on word of mouth, on what's happening in markets, etc. So there is no real way to, there's no scientific approach to kind of advise me on how I should invest, let's say, $1 across my various investments, and that's what we call portfolio. And this is true for farmer, and it goes all the way till the retail. So the retail giants, let's say Walmart, how does it source? How does it base its how does it decide where to invest? There is no scientific approach. So this agro engine is essentially based on predictive analytics. The way it works is by leveraging three-way convergence. So in that sense, it's kind of disruptive. Three-way convergence across three industries which define the developing economies. So it's retail, telecom, and agriculture. So the way it works is we have mobile devices. There is a huge telecom boom in all these in all these various countries. We use the digital penetration to extract data. This goes into a centralized server, which would be the agro engine. We perform some hardcore analytics on the data that we have, deliver key insights, and the revenue model is through either a subscription-based model to which various farming communities subscribe to, or we sell the information to various participants in across the value chain. So we have kind of planned it in two phases. The first is the front end. Development, which is essentially a web portal, and the development of an agro engine, which requires some R&D. And the back end is developing databases, delivering key insights, and identifying the key trends. Thank you.
So you've got three sets of customers that all seem very diverse. You've got
Absolutely.
the telecom people, the farmers, and the retailers. How are you going to reach them all? And also specifically, what are you going to tell the farmer? I mean, I'm a farmer. What do I need to know? What are you going to tell me that I want to buy?
So for the farmer, let's say I'm a farmer. What agro engine would do is, where it's really applicable is, it would form a macroscopic view of what's happening in the entire market. When you take information from individual farmers, you get to know what farmers are thinking. When you get information from the retail giants, the processing plants, you get to know what they are thinking. So essentially, we would be forming a macroscopic view and then delivering key insights and recommendations to an individual farmer. So if I'm a farmer, AgroEngine would tell me where should I invest my money, and the decision would be based on my personal preferences, such as my cost of capital, my risk appetite, my time to market of my products, etc. So in a way, it's customizable to each farming community or farmers.
So it doesn't have to do with how my crops are doing or what fertilizer I'm using or any of that. It's like what are other farmers thinking right now, and you're aggregating that and giving me the data.
So when I talked about multiple parameters that go into an agro engine, so one of the parameters could be the weather forecast. How does it look? How does let's say I'm growing wheat. What does it look for wheat from a weather perspective? What is the consumer demand for market for wheat? So all those parameters that you just mentioned would go as would go as inputs to the agro engine, and agro engine is as simple, to put in lay terms, it's a simple regression model which should take into account the past historic performance of wheat and these various inputs, and then on the basis of that deliver a key recommendation.
Well, I mean, there's already a pretty good system to get this information. It's called the futures markets for commodities, etc. So how is this system? How is it going to be better than a pretty reliable? That the market takes into consideration the supply, demand, weather, etc. So how is this different system?
This is different in a sense that we would be using, really leveraging the telecom sector. I feel, and in a way, bridging the digital divide, which is very prominent across the developing economies. So I think the challenge lies in collection of data, and with the recent boom in telecom, we can actually take in information from farmers and get real-time and use real-time analytics to kind of find out what people are thinking. I think in a way it differs from the futures market, because futures market, there is no one on the ground collecting data. It's more based on mathematical assumptions, etc. So here we would be collecting real-time data by leveraging telecom on the ground.
So I definitely get a sense from what you're saying, this is really meant towards the individual farmer. I mean, recently, a lot of the innovations that have happened in agriculture seem to have led to more consolidation, whereas maybe what you're saying is this is enabling the independent farmer to take advantage of a lot of these things. And I've seen, when I was in India, I saw this, and also Scott Cook yesterday was talking about the ability for people to use SMS messaging to find out the pricing at the market right there. So am I right to interpret what you're saying is that you're taking this a step further to be much more predictive, so that you can say this is what the other farmers are planting, therefore at harvest time you're going to be, is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, so that is the way to go about it. I mean, I think many companies are actually doing that kind of thing that you mentioned, but there is no kind of real analytics involved in this whole value chain. I mean, I know in India, what they're doing is they're reaching out to farmers by giving them weather forecasts, how will it look for the next 3 months, 4 months, but they're not kind of, collating the data, developing a macroscopic view, running analytics on that, and then essentially using that across the entire agriculture value chain.
How'd you come up with this idea?
So I study at Yale now. I'm doing my MBA. So for the last 2 years, I've been thinking about this, and also having lived in India for 3 years, for not 3 years, but a major part of my life. And when I came to US for my MBA, I noticed this huge change in the way things operate, and I started thinking about what is lacking in India and how we can use this in developing markets.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We wish you luck. No, I tell you, I feel for these contestants, the pressure, the time is so short. Sometimes I wonder, is this fair? But then I reflect that in real life, you get the elevator pitch, don't you? Sometimes. So I think it's probably good to put them through the pressure cooker. Let's bring out Carl Schlief of TrueBlue. Welcome. Hold on a second. Let's get your mic going.
I don't think your mic's working.
Mic's fine. Use that. Let's reset the clock, to be fair. That's fine. I'll take account of the time. Go ahead.
Judges, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. And all of you in this building, I'm really honored to be in the same building with you. It's been a real eye-opening conference. My name is Carl Schlief. I'm going to tell you a little bit about TrueBlue. And one thing I learned in my journalism class is don't step on your lead. So I'm going to get right to the meat. TrueBlue is software that's going to predict crime, stop crime, reduce crime, and we'll get into how it does that. TrueBlue is a piece of software that we've been developing for about 6 months. If you take a look at crime in America, it's very expensive. It's not only expensive in damage it does and the lives it destroys, but civil liberties, something that's really been underreported. Civil liberties is a real issue. And how do we reduce that? Well, we reduce it by reducing crime. If we can reduce it by 5%, that's great. If we reduce it by 10, better. And I think TrueBlue and other, TrueBlue will get us there, and here's how. TrueBlue is predictive analytics. What we do is we go into the police departments, we set up an instance for their police department in the cloud, and we take all their data in. We do text analysis, we bring in their incident reports, we do their offender reports, we do all their vice reports, everything that they do. We can do it on their PCs, their tablets, their droids, their iPhones. And what happens here is we're not selling them software. We do it all in the cloud. All they have to do is have access to a browser, so it eliminates all that IT costs for the police departments. It also, there's no IT disruptions, it just works out well for them. And because we do that, we can offer it at a really, really low price, just pennies a day. So when I was doing this presentation for my wife, she goes, so you're doing police software. Okay, so how are they going to make money from the police? They don't have any money. Well, the police, turns out, spend $23 billion a year combined in the United States. Granted, most of that goes for communications. A lot of it goes towards police cruisers. But when it all comes down to it, the aggregate police software market annually is $4.7 billion. And what we're going to try to do is grab at least 10%, 20%, 30% of that with TrueBlue. Now, TrueBlue is, again, it's software that sits in the cloud. It's mainly databases. But then on top of the databases, on each instance, there's this predictive analytics software. And what we try to do is we try to understand where are the hot spots in each community, which a lot of people have tried to do. We also want to do crosstabs so that we can come up with some pattern matching for the communities. We then take a look at the standard reporting that they have to do. If you take a look at the police logs in your local newspapers, those have to fall out of the police department, and we can automate all those reports. So we go into the police departments, and using predictive analytics, eventually after 6 months or 12 months of data, we should be able to start using. We should be able to predict what could possibly happen.
Okay, very good. Over to the Tigers.
Terrific. Well, a couple of questions. One is, you've seen Minority Report, right?
Yes, every time I talk about this.
You started to talk about predicting crimes and arresting them before they do them.
Tim, I want to talk to you later.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. The question I had is, well, you got a good sense for the market size, but I'm sure there's a lot of other police software out there that people
There's a lot of police software
out
there.
And is there a lot of competition for police software in the cloud?
That's a very good question. There's a lot of police software out there, and it turns out they're all one-offs. They cost between $75,000 to $3 million. If you take a look at the market that TrueBlue's looking at, there's really only one competitor, and that's IBM. And, but they only have one installation in Memphis, Tennessee, and they call it Blue Crush. It's taken 5 years to do, and they spent at least $500,000 plus at least double that on training and working the bugs out. And they're basically selling big iron. They're selling this big iron and this huge SPSS system, and it's crazy. We're saying we can do the same thing, and they're aiming at 25% crime reduction. We're aiming at something small, like 5 to 10% crime reduction. So we're trying to take it a little bit different.
Now, since it's a vertical, you're going after this police thing. Are you going to then go after fire people and bureaucrats?
You've been reading my notes. If you take a look at the market in the United States, there's 18,000 police departments. Of that, there's probably almost 1 million police officers that can be using the software. But then you go into things like university police, you go to park police, you go to port police. You then go into the fire department, which we can have a similar type of product. And then you go overseas. You go to Canada, well, maybe that's not overseas. You go to UK. You go to any place that has a fairly well-run police department, they can benefit from this. So if you take a look at it, we're looking at 15 to 20 million seats. And if we charge $5 or $10 a month for each seat, we're starting to get up into the billions.
I definitely understand the sort of cost reductions associated with hosting things on the cloud. I think particularly to sensitive information around police reports and public versus public domain information, it seems to indicate that those are things that people don't want in the cloud, especially if it's private information and there's
Correct.
risk there. So how do you address that issue?
Well, first off, we encrypt it going to the cloud. If the if Little Town USA has their instance in the cloud, they might only have 10 or 15 police. Their instance is completely sealed. It's been encrypted.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean from a technology perspective, from the sale perspective, right? So do you think you could actually convince the head of a police department to put that information in the cloud?
One of the biggest marketing problems that we foresee going forward is convincing the police that their data is safe in the cloud. And some municipalities might not like this, some police department might not like this. We're also prepared to sell them a server or server cluster at that point.
Have you spoken with police departments already? And what are they saying?
I'm not supposed to lie to VCs. I'm not supposed to lie to VCs. We haven't really sold anything.
I'm not a VC, so you can tell me too.
What we've done is we're working with them right now. We've only been doing this for about 8 or 9 months.
So what kind of experience do you and your team have in integrating with legacy systems that the departments will probably have?
I'm one of the original designers of the VAX 11780 from Digital Equipment, so I have a lot of experience doing legacy systems. We do VAXs, we do Unix, we can do HP, we can do Data General Novas if you want to. We can do all those.
Do you really want to spend your life selling to this government entity?
Selling is selling, you know. They have $4 billion.
Good. It'll be a challenge, but and so, have you got any early encouragement that some small police force somewhere is going to?
We worked with a small police force of about 75 policemen, and as we went through, trying to figure out what their data flow was and what their forms look like and all these other things. And we told them what we're going to be doing with this. And after about a week, they said, this is like power steering for what we're doing. And that's exactly what we want them to see it as. We also want them to see it as we're the only ones that can do what we do. We don't want them going off and buying a mapping software here or something else from there. We want to provide pretty much the whole thing for them.
Okay. We're out of time. But Carl, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Our final contestant, Ani Valalabeni from Synergy, please. Welcome him, give him good luck.
Synergy makes it profitable to provide sanitation services in urban slums. The facts are startling. 2.6 billion people in developing countries lack access to sanitation. The resulting disease kills nearly 1.5 million children each year and costs countries 6% of their GDP in lost productivity. The 10 million people living in the densely packed slums of Kenya that are currently paying for unhygienic and inaccessible sanitation options is the first market that we're tackling. But in these areas that lack basic water and sewage infrastructure, tackling the sanitation crisis requires more than just building toilets. At Synergy, we're taking a systems-based approach to addressing the entire sanitation value chain in these areas. Our model consists of 3 parts: build, collect, and convert. The first part is to build. Throughout the slums, we're building out a dense network of small-scale, high-quality sanitation centers that we're locating close to homes. Developed by our engineers at MIT, these toilets cost us $200 to fabricate at our workshop in Nairobi. These toilets are franchised to local operators. Each toilet is designed for 100 uses per day, and at the current rate of 6 cents per use in the slums of Kenya, our operators generate $1,200 of income every year for themselves. The second part of the model is to collect. Rather than using pits or septic tanks that are then drained into waterways, the waste in our toilets is collected in 30-liter double-sealed containers. And each day, Synergy employees collect the full containers of waste from our operators and provide them with clean, empty containers. The full containers of waste are then taken to our central location at the edge of the slum. The third part is to convert. Synergy generates a profit by converting this waste into high-margin products such as electricity that we can sell to the national grid in Kenya at 8 cents per kilowatt hour, and fertilizer that we can sell to commercial farms at 50 cents per kilogram. The annual waste collected from each toilet creates Synergy revenues of $1,250 per year. In fact, the waste from the 10 million people in the slums of Kenya creates a potential market of $178 million per year that's growing at 7%. At each step of the value chain, Synergy creates jobs, profit, and opportunities while addressing serious social and economic needs. We currently have 2 pilots operating in the slums of Nairobi for the past 6 months, serving 150 customers. We're currently expanding this to 60 locations by the end of 2011, and we'll be at 6,000 locations by 2015. We'll be breaking even by 2013 and generating nearly $9 million in revenues by 2015 with 29% net margins. We'll be graduating from MIT in June and moving to Nairobi full-time to work on this. We're currently in the middle of raising a $500,000 seed round, 40% of which will go towards upfront capital equipment, and the rest towards 12 months of operational expenses. So join us as we turn shit into gold.
So my question is, when they get word that when they get word that their shit turns into gold, aren't they going to start charging you for using these things?
That's a great question. I think one of the barriers to entry we have in the fact is that sanitation is a taboo subject, and people don't want to handle their own waste. There's been numerous studies, and studies not only conducted by us, but other groups in Kenya that shows that people are actually willing to not handle their waste. So even people in the slums are willing to pay to get their waste removed and not have to handle it themselves.
Well, and then that sort of brings, if you really are getting as much from the waste to energy thing, which, by the way, we've seen a lot of these waste to energy things, they don't always work.
Sure.
But the waste to energy thing gives you as much as the pay toilet piece.
Yep.
Why not just give the thing away?
Well, I think that's a good point. So one of the things that you create when you go into these areas, when you start giving away free equipment or free products, is that you really disrupt and skew the existing market, the market mechanisms. There is an existing vibrant market for sanitation services where a lot of people are making a living by charging the 6 cents per kilowatt, 6 cents per use, right? So if you go in and you charge providing free services, you're really going to just screw up their market and then try to create a market where everybody's waiting around for a free option rather than using their own purchasing capacity to provide solutions that the market can provide for them. So,
now, sorry, on your costs, you say it's $200 each for these things, but then you say some guy's got to go and retrieve it every day. How much are those costs for a year?
Right. So we operate the kind of waste collection infrastructure. So we have waste collectors that can do 20 toilets per day, and the annual cost that we charge to the operators of the toilet is $75 per year to collect the waste on a daily basis. And because we can amortize the cost across 20 different toilets, 20 different locations.
So Kenya is a particularly different market for the rest of Africa, and because of the density of the slums, right? So can this model work for other parts or other emerging markets where the density isn't as much and perhaps the cost of servicing and the need for a service like yours will be limited?
We're definitely focusing on urban slum areas. I think whether it's in Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana, there's areas of the countries where there's very high density of population. And even in India, it's the same case. So I think the model is applicable in other countries, and but the particular toilet and the way it's designed needs to be customized for the users and the acceptance of the users in each location, because different toilet habits are used in different locations. So definitely the same model is applicable in other countries, same general model. And what we're really building is a platform for organic waste management, right? So we're putting in the infrastructure to pull the waste out of these areas and create hygiene in those areas in general. So whether it's human waste or organic waste, whether it's our toilets or toilets that other providers, other companies produce, that's great. All we want is the waste. And so we're developing a lot. This is the first product we're starting with, but we're planning on a whole portfolio of products.
So why are you focusing on the toilet? It sounds like you can get that. So I saw online there's a company called Terra Preta Sanitation, and it looks like they do something very similar where they turn this into fertile soil.
Sure. So a lot of the sanitation solutions that you have out there are very much DIY, right? So do-it-yourself type of development, where they ask you to build your own toilet and then compost your own waste and then produce your own 10 kilos of fertilizer. And in an urban area, in an urban slum area, that doesn't really make sense because you don't have a farm, unlike in a rural area where you perhaps can use the waste, right? So in the kind of nutrient reuse approach doesn't work in the urban areas because there's no ready markets for them to tap
So it seems like the value you're adding is the actual collection and the conversion. So why is it that you need the $200 toilets? Why not tap into the existing infrastructure?
So we're tackling it. One is that there's a lack of toilet options. So 80% of the market's using unhygienic pit toilets or open defecation, right? So there's just the actual lack of toilets. So we need to build out that infrastructure. The second is we are tapping into existing, let's say the toilets that are existing. We've developed a bicycle-powered suction pump where as you pedal the bike, it sucks the waste out of the pits. And couldn't quite fit into the 3-minute pitch, but these are other products that we're working along the value chain. How do we make things easier and kind of not only how do we create new infrastructure, but then rehab existing infrastructure and leverage the existing infrastructure that's there.
Have you done any market sizing?
Yeah, so the market sizing is, I mean, in Kenya, 80% of the 10 million people don't have access to sanitation right now. And globally, that's 2.6 billion people, but I think that's a much later market that we're going after. So in Kenya itself, the waste, again, our projections show about $178 million year market from the products of the waste. That's in addition to the revenues that are being generated locally for the operators of the toilets themselves.
Are you worried that there are no barriers to entry?
Actually, the barriers to entry would be great. If other people want to build toilets, we're more than happy to take their waste. And on the other side, on the waste generation side, the barrier to entry is a scale that we need, right? So not everybody can immediately put up the scale that you need, but everybody can put up a toilet immediately, and that's perfectly fine with us.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much. We wish you luck. All right. Now the fun part begins. The judges will judge. Let's kill their microphones so they can have a private conversation. Put on some mood music, the dancing monkeys, whatever we have going on for the rest of us. You guys confer. We'll come back to you in 5 minutes.
Professional failure is never serious because you still got all your blood in your body, you've got everything else beating away, the oxygen is flowing, you're gonna live. When I hear the word failure, I think of happiness because it means a chance to reflect, a chance to revector, opportunity to improve. Of course it hurts, it goes in there. At the same time, if you let it stay in there, nothing else can fill it. I think career-wise, I remember like when I was in a certain role and I couldn't do the role and I had to resign from it. You know, sometimes that's success, knowing you can't do it. What did I do? I went to train and learn. I got my MBA. Now this is useful tools. Go back to it, succeed. Sometimes you fail because you just are missing a piece. You know, when someone says to me, in both roles, when I was at MIT, you know, I applied and I didn't get in, or I applied to RISD, I didn't get in. I said, well, just try again. He says, no, I just didn't get in. I said, no, try 5 times, you're bound to get in. No one ever does that.
We would welcome it.
It's midnight and I give up. Tired of lying for you. I will not hold your hands and pretend I'm your lover. You must admit the turnouts have all been less than grand. There's no more police escorts or the high school welcome bands. I'm no lie detector. He's no bullshit talker, and we both know who knows what should be known to all the onlookers. Now they've put away the kissing booths, chaps the gossip is truth. The only donkey they'll be riding, boy, is the one wearing your shoes. Now they've heard it through the walls of telephone operators. And I found out from someone else, said he was your brother. I'm no lie detector. He's no bullshit talker, and we both know who knows what should be known to all the onlookers. I don't care if I'm the only one who's not paying, 'cause honey, I am done staying up all night waiting. protector.
Do you need another 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. While they're in their final deliberations, I could see gnashing of teeth going on there in that intense conversation. I think we will do our iPad draw. I think you all have waited long enough. What do you think? Are you ready? All right, let's do that. Of course, you know the ground rules. You must be present to win, most importantly, and I'm so delighted to see such a big crowd. I mean, isn't this great, guys? At the end of 2 days, we have so many people here. And secondly, of course, and this is a very sad thing that I fought every step of the way, no Economist employee is allowed to win. Very, very upset about this. But just so you know, there's no funny business. I'm not going to favor any of you, of my cronies in the audience. I'm actually going to bring out the voice of God that you've heard the last 2 days, introducing people. Sophie Sutherland, why don't you come on out? Give her a round of applause. Now that I have unmasked God, you can see that she is really more wonderful than you imagined. I will hold it, and she will pick the winner. Again, you have to be present to win. Steve Cousins, are you here? No. All right. Yeah, exactly. Ed Jimenez. All right. Never has absence been more applauded than at this moment in time. Isabel Lescent Giles. Isabel, are you here? No? All right. Okay. Hey, more for you and me, right? Okay. Mark Watchler, are you here? All right. Excellent, Mark. Congratulations. Tell you what. You'll see the staff. They'll sort you out at the end of the event. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, judges, I'm afraid we're at the moment of reckoning.
Okay.
All
we
right.
have, Your Honor.
It was hard.
It was tough, was it? Okay. Well, before you reveal the winner, let's give each of you 2 minutes just to recap your thinking on how you thought about the process, the winners and losers. You know, be specific. Give us a little insight. Why don't we start in reverse order? Chiniro.
Okay, I personally like to think of innovation and also figure like things that would look different in a couple of years. And I think the traditional boundaries of kind of closets of pockets of information are going to break down. And if that is going to be true, what kinds of businesses are most likely to succeed in that environment? And I think so. That's kind of my lens and of looking at it. You know, we've just seen. I live in Ghana, and people are using Twitter and Facebook and doing all kinds of things with information. I think we're really just at the kind of 1% stage of that, kind of allowing information to flow, not only from kind of the traditional media, but even individuals themselves. So I think that's where that's the exciting part of this kind of information revolution.
Okay, Z?
I think, like I said earlier, there's really a spectrum between what's going to be the most likely to get implemented versus what's the most disruptive idea. And often it's very difficult to have both ends of the spectrum. But I think that the idea that we picked is really pushing the envelope about what could change the way things, how things can change with information technology. And so it's pretty disruptive.
Okay, Tim?
So, yeah, I'm going to go through each one kind of quickly. I thought as to Khan, the guy was very politically astute. He came, he spoke to all of us. He mentioned an African angle. He told us it was disruptive. It was very, very interesting. I thought he knew his stuff. Not sure it's as big a game changer. The second one, Anjal, it was a tougher presentation, tougher to really understand what the business was doing, but it had a possible real game changer behind it. Analytics is getting to be a very big thing. A lot of interesting entrepreneurial opportunities in analytics. The third one, True Blue, I thought that presentation was very well done. He is a good salesman, and he's going to have to be because that market, selling to cops, is going to be brutal. And the idea of Minority Report, I think, is real.
Yeah.
But, you know, predictive crime and that kind of thing is kind of interesting. And moving to the cloud, I think making police more efficient might be a really positive thing. And then the Sanergy, Annie did a very nice job. He was probably the best presenter. And the idea is a wonderful pie in the sky, but a little Pollyanna-ish idea where you can, you know, turn whatever into gold. And I don't really see that necessarily happening. It's going to be a very tough business, you know, one stall at a time. I think he's going to have the toughest business of all of these is his. Best presentation, toughest business. So we had a very difficult time. So we were playing around with this, and we all had different ideas, and we basically talked ourselves into one of them.
All right. Okay, so you have a winner. Will one of you do the honors? Reveal the winner.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, Agro Engine.
All right. All right. Let's have Anjay come on stage. Anjay, congratulations. Excellent.
Congratulations.
Great. I'm putting you on the spot. Just 30 seconds. Give us a quick reaction.
I think Economist and InnoCentive, both of them did a great job. In terms of, I really had no idea about how to go forward with this great idea I had. So it's just a matter of, I came to know about this challenge through the web, and I just applied. So in terms of giving a platform, I think it did. I think this is wonderful.
Well, thank you. It means a lot to us who worked on it. Congratulations to you. And thank you to my Tigers Lair. Give them a nice round of applause as well. Great.
Good job.